Alright, what's going on, guys? This is going to be a long one. Today I'm going to talk about every nerf that I would do for every character in Tekken 8. This is a fun one. I've recorded a lot of this after streaming where I talk to chat about it. So if you want to hang out in the streams, the links to all my stuff will be in the description. But yep, this is a lot of stuff that I talked about on stream. And before I get into any specific character, I will talk about some general things that I would want to see change. That way I'm not naming like 15 moves for each character. I'll talk about some move archetypes and how I think those move archetypes should be addressed. So yeah, I think that's it for the introduction. Let's talk about some of the general things I want to see changed. Alright, so in terms of the general move archetype, let's talk about the first one. The first move we're going to talk about is the homing button. In my opinion, homing buttons, the purpose of a homing button is to call out your opponent sidestepping. That's what a homing button should be used for. As a consequence, it doesn't make much sense for a homing button to either A, give a mix-up on block, B, wall splat, or C, heat engage. A homing button that does any of these three things is overtuned and should not be in the game, right? So, because the way that I try to think about it is that a character like Lars, when he does his dynamic entry 3, because it's +5 on block, and because so much stuff tracks here that you just have to guess, Lars is being rewarded for being wrong. He's also getting 9 chip, by the way. So Lars is being rewarded for being wrong about you sidestepping with a mix-up. That's plus on block. Also, that low crushes. That just shouldn't be in the game. Heihachi, his armor from his stance, the down 1+2 stance, that is a homing armored wall splat. It's too much. I don't think a single homing button should have any other property besides being plus on hit. And if it is going to wall splat, I think it needs to be punishable on block. I do not think a single homing button should reward you that heavily and also be like -5. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Next, we're still here with Lars. I do not think that G-Clefs should wall splat and heat engage. I think if a G-Clef is going to wall splat, I think that's fine. It's allowed to do that. It shouldn't heat engage. And if a G-Clef is going to heat engage, it should not wall splat. A character who actually has a relatively interesting take on this is Clive. He doesn't have a G-Clef, but he has interesting like hit properties on some of his moves, right? So if we look at Clive's 1-2, this is his 10 frame punish here. You'll note that one, this knocks down, that's cool. This doesn't wall splat. It does this like wall stumble thing where Clive can't ever get anything guaranteed here. I think if they're already in the air, he can use 1-2 as a wall carry, but this doesn't wall splat. G-Clef should either do that, where they just like fall off the wall and they can attack roll, or they should do this. Clive's 1+2. This is 13 frame heat engager. You see here, this is +2 on hit, right? And it doesn't wall splat. This isn't that good. If this move didn't heat engage, this move would be useless, right? +2 on hit is just not scary. You know, every character's gonna be able to sidestep after that. And it's a -9 on block, right? This move has to heat engage because it does literally nothing else. I think G-Clefs should have this property where they should either only heat engage and give very little plus frames, or they're allowed to wall splat, but they don't heat engage. Lili is also a character who has a relatively balanced G-Clef. Hers is launch on block, so you know, it comes with significantly more risks than many of the other ones. And while the last hit is a counter hit launcher, it doesn't wall splat. You know, it's just her 1-1-3 will knock you down, and then you're not allowed to tech roll, which is pretty cool. You have to get up, right? But most of the time, you're too far away that you can't run a real mix-up on you. In my opinion, this chain should go through for every G-Clef in the entire game. The next move I'd like to talk about is the mid-mid string that gives a mix-up on block. In my opinion, the point of a mid-mid string is to prevent your opponent from ducking the mid-high string. So if we look at Jin's back forward to 2-1, this is a safe mid-high mid string. So, that's a good string. You really don't want your opponent to duck this second hit because you'll die for it. So how do you get them to stop ducking it? You use a mid-mid string. So this is -9. That's pretty good. Except Jin can hold forward and now he is +2 in the stance, meaning that you are being punished you're being double punished, right? Because not only are you not allowed to duck here because that's a really messed up situation if you duck, but okay, I'm not ducking because I think you're going to use the mid. Now I have to hold a mix-up again. This is unacceptable in my opinion. This is especially unacceptable on Jin because this is a real mix-up here, right? If this was a character like June where you can do a step block on her Azumo stance and ignore the entire stance, that would be totally fine. You cannot do that with Jin's stance. Why can you not do that? We have a homing high that is armored and also wall splats and is also safe, and we have a homing mid that is safe and wall splats. This is completely unacceptable. You have to guess every single time. This situation should not be in the game, where someone can say, oh, you're trying to duck my mid-high, let me punish you for doing that. Oh, well, you didn't duck, guess what? It's still my turn. Unacceptable, this shouldn't be in the game. Next, let's talk about can-cans. This only applies to Jun and Asuka, but I figured I would say it here instead of, another place, because, they may introduce another can-can character in the future, right? So, the issue with can-cans is that they cannot be low parried, which is very annoying. Why is it annoying? Well, one of the issues here is that if you try to low parry a normal low, you do that with down tilt, right? So you hold it down forward because you think that they're going to do a low. Easy enough. Because can-cans are jumping moves, they can't be low parried. In my opinion, this is really annoying because look what happens if you commit to a low parry. If you look at my inputs, all I'm doing is holding down forward. I get launched for committing to a low parry, right? So you do a low parry, and then on reaction to the first kick coming out, you have to hold back. This is exceptionally difficult to do, and most of the time, if you go for a low parry here and they can you, you're in the air every single time. Again, this is insane. I do not think that Jun and Asuka should be getting rewarded because you tried to low parry, and for one reason or another, we're not allowed to low parry jumping moves. I think the fix for this is you should be allowed to low parry any low, or if for whatever reason they don't want to do that, I think that can should be -10 to -12 on block. I do not think you should be able to use this move just in the neutral for 0 risk, especially on a character like Asuka, who I won't say has no lows, but her lows aren't very good. So when you have a character who it's really, really scary to duck this character, why should we have a safe low counter hit launcher that hard counters low parries? It doesn't make any sense. The risk reward just isn't here. This is supposed to be an active defense button where they either have a read that you're going to do a low, or they have a read on your timing. And because can-cans are safe, they don't have to have either, especially if you're using a slow button, right? So if Asuka does jab into can-can, so if I do this into this will actually beat Jin's forward 3 if I try to take my turn back on her -8. Right? I tried to take my turn back on her -8 and I got counter hit launched because I did a move that was really slow and she's ripped another can. Should you be able to do that? Probably not. Next, let's talk about Demon Paws. This is a running theme among all the changes that I want to see, but in my opinion, Demon Paws are extremely over-dimensioned, especially Kazuya's, but in general, I think most Demon Paws are over-dimensioned. I consider a Demon Paw an advancing knockdown mid that is safe. Now, in Tekken 8, most Demon Paws also track really well, also heat engage, and are also heat dash launchers. And in my opinion, this is too much. It shouldn't do all of these things. I think that knocking down and wall splatting is already really, really good, especially because they're safe, and especially because most of them have okay tracking. The fact that these also heat engage and they also heat dash launch, unacceptable. When they nerfed Heihachi so it doesn't heat dash launch, I thought that was a really good change. But again, in my opinion, these shouldn't interact with heat at all. So Armor King's forward, forward, 4. Leo has a Demon Paw that gives install. So that one I probably would have it not give install anymore. But Lee has one. Any of these advancing, safe, wall splatting knockdown mids, the fact that they also interact with heat feels excessively overtuned to me. The last move archetype that I would want to see removed is the wall splatting guard break. In my opinion, a guard break opening up your guard, meaning that you stood still and just held whatever move they were charging. Sometimes it's not even a charge, for instance. So when the Bears use their guard break and when Jack uses his guard break, it's not even a charge. It's just Bears when they're in heat, Jack when he has his install. In my opinion, the reward is that you get chipped and you take a guaranteed hit and they have frames. The fact that this will also wall splat for a lot of times, 1,000,000 damage, is incredibly annoying to me, and it makes guard breaks feel overly rewarding, especially because I don't think that many characters should have them. So when all of these characters have guard breaks, it's incredibly frustrating. Feng's, in my opinion, is the biggest offender because the only way to fix it is to change his back one so that this doesn't knock down with install, or so that doesn't wall splat rather. They could give it the same animation that Clive has, where they'll like slump off the wall. I think that would probably be the best fix for it. But even though his guard break only gives him plus 11, he still gets to wall splat here, which is super annoying. So let me have Anna block. I forgot the wall combo, but I think it's what? It's this? Yeah. So this is what he'll end up getting. Right? 44 damage plus the 11 from the guard break. That's a 55 damage sequence, which is really, really frustrating. Especially because Feng at the wall is super scary, right? We have a bunch of stuff here that we just can't really sidestep anymore, and that's very, very annoying. So, in my opinion, I think these just all need to go. I think the other characters should lose their frames so that they don't get access to the wall splatting move. And for Feng, heat back one should not wall splat. In my opinion, this should just do like the wall slump that Clive's 1-2 does. Alright, with all of that out of the way, let's start with like a little disclaimer. This video was really fun for me to make. I like discussing these things. Theorizing about game balance is something that I take pretty seriously and something that I really enjoy. So this is all for fun for me. If you did disagree, and I know that many of you will, then that's fine. Try to take it super, super seriously. This isn't supposed to be like a, hey, Bandai, you should hire me because I know everything. It's literally just, this is what I think would make the game more fun for everyone. So keep that in mind before we actually get into the changes, starting with Alisa. Alright, so Alisa has 3 moves that I think are way, way too good, and they kind of hold the whole kit together. I think if these moves were worse, then Alisa would have a significantly harder time just oppressing you because you don't have that many choices in the matter. First, we're going to talk about her back 1+2. This is a armored move. This is also completely homing. She will turn to face you during this. So that is sidewalk to one direction, and if we're sidewalking the other way, you will always turn to face you during this move. So that is an armored move. Again, like I said in the earlier section, this also wall slides. Like I said in the earlier section, I don't believe that armored moves should have so many dimensions. The point of armor is to call out your opponent pressing a slow button on plus frames, right? So your opponent is +5 and they're going to use a 20 frame move. That's when you armor. Doesn't make any sense for this to 1, be homing, and 2, also wall splat. The reward is that you're in chainsaws. The fact that it's also going to wall splat feels really absurd. I personally think all armors should be linear. I don't know, like maybe Hwoarang can keep his backlash because it's so slow, but this not being linear feels very weird to me. I do not like how Alisa can just, I'm gonna put myself a -6 and just do this. And if you do anything besides a low or block, then you're getting hit. You have to hold a chainsaw mix. So that's the first move. The next move is her forward 1/1+2. Now at point blank, this move isn't that crazy, but the issue is that from full screen, this move is homing. You cannot sidewalk this in the neutral. This second hit will always realign. Yeah, you can't do anything about it. She will turn to face you if she can during the second hit, which is incredibly frustrating. It makes playing keep out against Alisa very, very difficult. It's already really hard, but it's especially hard when she has a safe mid-mid, really long range homing button to approach you with. Again, at point blank, you can step it, but that move is really good. Not only is it a really good approach tool, this is what it does on counter hit. Not only does it do that out in the open, this is what it does with your back against the wall. Yeah, so you're taking 89 damage from a homing safe mid-mid. That's pretty good. That move seems pretty absurd to me. I just don't think it should track anywhere near as well as it does and also be safe. So, in my opinion, tracking on that should be nerfed pretty significantly, especially at far ranges. You can step it on immediate timing up close, but from far away, it's literally homing. You can't do anything about it. The final move is destruction back to 1. So, the first hit is -11. The second hit is safe. This is -3. Not only is this -3, this is homing. You cannot step this to either direction. So if I switch this back, you will always turn to face you. Every single time, you cannot step this. So not only is this a homing mid-mid that you can't step, this is a homing mid-mid that you can't step, that's safe, that floor breaks. Does she need a -3 on block, homing, safe, mid-mid that floor breaks, in the same stance that has a homing high that's so fast that you can't reasonably step duck it, and a homing low? Probably not. So I think this move just needs to lose its tracking. It shouldn't track right, which is the side's weak side. Especially because you get access to a homing armored mid that also tracks the weak side of that stance. Having a safe mid that tracks the weak side, it just doesn't make any sense for game design. It makes this character a nightmare to play against. Whenever she's in chainsaws, it's a pure 50-50 every single time. Alright, let's talk about Anna. I think that this character, despite all the nerfs that she's received, is still insanely powerful. It would not surprise me if when all is said and done, assuming we get no more patches, that as time goes on, Anna very quickly rises in the ranks and ends up being, top 5, top 10 again. The reason that Anna is so good is because of this. Being able to cancel into crouch here breaks this entire sequence and makes this the most broken 50-50 in the entire game. Not only can she mix you up from Hammer Chance, she can also mix you up from full crouch, and she can mix you up from Chaos Judgment, and she can mix you up with delayed string enders, all from a safe mid-high jailing 13 frame mid that is 0 on block. In my opinion, the really broken thing about this is being able to cancel into full crouch. This breaks this entire sequence. What I would do to nerf this character is, instead of make down forward 1-2 not jail, I don't mind this jailing, mainly because I think that the way I would nerf Nina isn't, you know, nerfing down forward 1-2. It would be something else. I don't think that these should just not jail because it's really important to these characters' pressure. I think she shouldn't be able to cancel out of hammer chance into full crouch. I think if they did that change, she would probably be the weakest character in the game, and she would need to have some of her nerfs reverted, which I personally am fine with. I think this nerf here is bigger than the rest of her nerfs combined. That's how important this is to Tekken 8 Anna's gameplay, where Anna players can play completely differently all off the back of this string, where you'll have one Anna player who most of their neutral here is, am I going to finish the string or not? Where they'll do a lot of this, right? They don't actually use the hammer chance to mix up that much, at least off of down forward 1-2. Whereas other Anna players will do, okay, I'm going to run a hammer chance mix sometimes, and then sometimes I'll do nothing. And then, you know, the best Anna players will obviously mix you up from all three of the stances. But yeah, I don't think her canceling into crouch, essentially making this safe, is healthy for the game, right? Because we can do this into crouch and then sidestep out of crouch, and it's obnoxious. I think it's too much. She will need to get compensation buffs if they ever remove something like this, but I think this is the thing that makes Anna broken. Not, you know, this knocking down into guaranteed follow-up, not this giving something on counter hit. This giving something on counter hit was really powerful too, but the actual most broken thing about Anna is this. Alright, let's talk about Armor King. This is a character who has a significant number of moves that are way, way too good. I think Armor King is one of the best characters in the game. For me, he's probably top 5. Maybe even a little bit higher than that, but, you know, I haven't made up my mind on that. One of the reasons is that his wall Oki is artificially inflated by his 2 ground throw. What do I mean by that? Well, in a game where the devs have decided that all the toxic wake-up traps, we're basically going to get rid of them besides Yoshi's sword sweep, right? All of the other ones have more or less been removed. So the fact that Armor King gets to keep his, and not only does Armor King keep his, you also lose the game, seems excessive, right? So instead of showing an entire combo, let's just look at a clean wall splat. So, you know, Armor King isn't in rage or anything, just you got wall splat. Let's look at the situation. So here I have Jin set to tech roll. If he tech rolls, he won't get hit by the ground throw. That's good. Let's turn off tech roll and see what happens. Okay, so now his feet are towards us and Jin's head is away from us, and, you know, he's his face down towards the ground. That means that he can't block because of the wall slam here. So this is all guaranteed. He just lost the round for that. Should that be in a game where we've gotten rid of, you know, Masku Tech for Kazuya, we've gotten rid of Jin's cross-up. I don't think it works anymore. I haven't seen Jin players using it. Devil Jin had a cross-up that I'm 99% sure got removed. Lili has had multiple of her cross-ups removed. Those are just the ones off the top of my head. We've decided that this type of thing isn't allowed in the game, and that's fine. The fact that Armor King forces you to tech roll at the wall because if you do anything else, you instantly lose, I think that's too much. I think that should be removed, in my opinion. It's just way, way, way too much. I don't agree with that still being in the game. Next, let's talk about his wall standing 2. This is 12 frames, and this is kind of long. We're pretty good. If we look at the frames on block, this is completely safe. I disagree, especially because this is a frame trap. Like, sidestep 2 is already an insane button because this brolic dude here is completely evading everything with this move, and it frame traps into a safe counter hit launcher. This being safe is unbelievable to me. At least -10, like Brian's. In my opinion, they should both be -12. Absolutely insane that this is completely safe, especially given how much damage this does, right? That's a lot of damage, especially given that Armor King's wall carry is insane and he's basically always getting wall. That's really good. I think that move is way too much. Like, way too much. Next, let's talk about Sidestep 4. In general, I like Sidestep 4. This is a pretty minor nerf because if you're not playing at really high levels of play, you don't know about this. So if we look here, one, this is a safe tech to counter launcher. That, again, that's all fine. Jin isn't tech roll, even though I have tech roll on. So this completely denies tech rolls. What that means is that, one, if you don't know this, you'll try to tech and you'll just stand up, meaning that this is guaranteed. If I'm not bad. Yeah, so that's guaranteed. So this is a 44 damage safe mid. Not only is it a 44 damage safe mid that counter hit launches, it sets up his broken throw Oki. Because Armor King can do this, where he wave dashes up to you and does a throw. And now you're guessing again. Which leads me into the next thing. I don't think Armor King's chain throw should be a 1 or a 2 break. I think it should be both. Just like default throws, the fact that Armor King can wave dash at you, and here's a 1 throw, and wave dash at you, and here's a 1+2 throw, and wave dash at you, and here's a 2 throw, it's way too good. Especially because he sets it up from this situation, right? That's way too much. There's also the heat stuff, which I don't even really need to get into. Armor King and King, I don't know why we have homing Giant Swing. I don't know why we have homing Shining Wool Wizard. Are his chain throws homing too? No, these aren't homing, thank God. But yeah, I don't know why this is still homing when he is in heat. And it also doesn't burn any meter, which most of the time, your move getting enhanced in heat has a cost to it. The fact that not only are these homing, but they don't burn any meter is completely insane to me. I think his character is ultra broken because of that. Finally, let's talk about alley kicks. Alley kicks, I might be missing some moves. I'm mostly doing this off the top of my head. But let's talk about alley kicks. So, this is a launch punch below. If I have Jin block this, it's -16. Cool. There is a mix-up here. So, I can do this. The mid is -15, so, okay, he risked his life. Then we have a high here. Okay, cool. Nothing super crazy. If I have Jin try to punish this while standing 4, he will interrupt the mid. That's good. What if I have him try to punish the high? Yeah. I'm not sure that Armor King should have one of these lows that they mix up on block. I think that these are extremely toxic and they should all be removed from the game. Where Armor King gets a guaranteed ground throw attempt here, and if you guess wrong, this is just a super obnoxious scenario, right? Like, this is insane. I think if you don't want to guess, while standing 4-4 should punish both options, and if you're okay with guessing, then the situation can stay as it is. But the fact that, 1, you can't safely take your punish here, and 2, these both wall splat, this is insane. This super broken. Yeah. I think with all of those nerfs, I think Armor King will be in a place where he is both strong and also like fun to play against. In general, I think that's like my main driving force behind a lot of these proposed changes, is to restore the fun to the game, where we have a lot of these moves that are super overdimensioned and do too many things, and it makes it so that you just keep using the move with 9 properties instead of picking the tool for the job. So once all these moves are nerfed, I think that... Oh, there's one more. I totally forgot about this. This armor, I don't think it's wall splats, which, thank God it doesn't wall splat. Plus 26. You have to guess there. As I said earlier, the point of armor is that you are punishing your opponent for using a slow move on plus frames, right? They're +5, they use a 20 frame move. That's why you're using armor. The reward is that you hit them and it's your turn. Should you get a forced stance mix-up here where they have to guess? Probably not. There's actually one more move that I forgot about. His forward, neutral 2. So this is an advancing low that high crushes, and on hit gives a +8 mix-up into a stance where you can't step most of the options. So this is a force 50-50 every single time. And again, this is an advancing low. Should an advancing low give a stance mix-up on hit and also only be -13? This should be launched because of everything that it does, especially because, again, it also has a counter hit property. This counter hit heat engages and wall splats, which sets up the broken oak, right? Where you have to get up, because if you don't, you lose the game. Should a move that does all of that be -13? I don't think so. In my opinion, Asuka is pretty close. There's only 2 very minor changes that I would make. So if I can give her install and have Jin block, I think while running 1+2, this should be +5. This being +7 is a little bit too restrictive to the point where it feels like you're still not really allowed to move here. Like, I think +5 is totally fine against Asuka. I don't think there's a huge problem with it. The only other change I would make is that this, I wish it were a little bit slower, maybe 31 frames. This move feels a little challenging to actually sidestep on reaction. I can do it sometimes, but for me, the issue with this move is that it looks kind of similar to her, like, snake edge, right? Like, I could be tripping, but for me, these have, like, pretty similar startups, at least in terms of the animation. So, like, some of your mental frames are gonna be, oh, that's not snake edge, I need to sidestep, and at that point, it's too late, right? So if this were 1 or 2 frames slower, I don't think that's the worst deal ever. But Asuka's pretty close, in my opinion. I don't mind this character. Azucena's stance is incredibly toxic on certain frames, mainly on +4. Because on +4, you can no longer meaningfully engage with this stance. So if we look at Libertador on +4, you can still step jabs, that's cool. And we can still step the down 3, the big pressure mid. That move's also counter hit launcher. But let's look at what we can't step. Can't step this slow, that's the 3. Can't step this safe mid heat engager. That move is basically homing. You can't step that right eye. Can't step the launcher. This move is obviously homing, so you can't step that. That one's also a homing armor, in my opinion. That should lose one of those properties, either the homing property or the armored property. Can't step this mid kick. Can't step the hell sweep. So this is a hard 50-50 every single time. You either crouch jab or you power crush, and those are the options. If you think a low is coming, you crouch jab. If you think anything else is coming, you power crush. That's basically it. So how do we fix this? In my opinion, the problem move here is Lib 2. This move being a safe mid heat engager that trades with jabs and is also homing on these frames is way too much. In my opinion, this move should be linear, and if this move is a linear, and then the 1+2, if this tracked a little bit less and was -13 instead of -14, I think this stance becomes way cooler. Because now, instead of having to do like a crouch jab or an armor, you can do those, but you also have access to a sidestep left duck. If you want to apply really high level counterplay, you're allowed to do that, you know? Lili and Alisa, they can do sidestep left ducks, which makes this matchup very dynamic. Because, oh, if Azu wants to beat a sidestep left duck, she can walk in this stance, right? So she can realign, she can sidestep to realign, she can delay a button to realign. All of that stuff is really cool, and it makes for really engaging games between both players. As it stands now, crouch jab or power crush, that's it. That's really boring, and I think that if they nerf the tracking on Lib 2 and slightly nerf the tracking on a lib 1+2 and make it a little bit safer, I think Azu is actually in a really, really good spot. Brian, this guy is a lot. Yeah, this character is a lot. I think this character has been broken for a really long time. Just because he's hard at the highest level doesn't mean that he's not disgustingly powerful. First, we'll talk about these lows. Down 4, this is homing. No character can step this to either side. So we have a way to effectively lock down movement for very little risk. It's -11, and some characters can't punish it at tip range. It's also 0 on hit. So again, full reset to new neutral. Whenever Brian wants, just, okay, just stop moving. Seems really, really good. Down back 3 against most of the cast. This is also homing, and it high crushes. Seems really good. I'm not sure that should be on this type of character. I don't know if this should be homing. Some characters can step it. Lily and Alisa can step it. Maybe Armor King and Dragunov. I haven't tested it. But this tracking as well as it does seems like way too much. Next, we have forward 3. So typically you want to step Brian to the right. You know, you evade a back 1. You evade a Requiem. You don't evade that. You don't evade that either. But, you know, you evade a few buttons if you sidestep him to the right. His big buttons, you step to the right. Small buttons, you typically step left. So, cool. That is good. I don't understand why then we have a plus on block mid counter hit launcher that tracks most characters to his strong, or to his weak side rather. This seems like a huge miss. This should either track the other way, or not counter hit launch, or not be plus on block. One of those things needs to go. Doesn't make any sense. Hatchet kick, this move also tracks insanely well. This is very, very difficult to step to either direction. Depending on the frames, you can sometimes step this left, but this is really, really hard to sidestep. You can step it left though, just it's very hard to do so. I think that this should have 0 tracking left. You should always be able to step this left if you have a hard read that he's gonna hatch it and you want to go for a big launch, right? I don't know why this tracks so well. Seems like a miss. Next, let's talk about some of the more obnoxious moves. Here's Wall Standing 3. This is a 12 frame counter hit launcher. That's pretty good, especially given how much damage this does. Does like 95 or something. It's a lot of damage. An insane amount of damage, in all honesty. So why is the risk only -10? Brian's getting 95 more if he takes you wall to wall, and you're getting like 25, and maybe you get a mix-up after, depending on the character you're playing. Seems like a really, really big risk-reward issue, where this is like super in Brian's favor, especially because this is a follow-up. Now, this follow-up is also -10, but let's see what happens if we try to punish this. So I'm going to have Jin set to do 10 frame punish. So now, if we just rip our punish here, plus 29. Not only are we plus 29, against really good Bryans, this is a taunt jet upper. You just lost the entire game off of this. Because they'll do this, and then they'll run up in your face with the plus 29, taunt jet upper, you just lost. Seems like a lot, given that this character has really good wall carry, some of the best wall damage in the game, and top 1 wall oak in the entire game. Should you be risking game every single time he does this? Seems like a miss, especially because the second hit is a little bit delayable, right? So if you mash your punish, then a delayed wall standing 3-4 won't connect, but if you were late, the 4 will just blow you up and you die every single time. Really, really incredibly annoying in my opinion. I think his wall standing 3 is insane. It should either A, not be delayable, or B, be -12, or it should be such that even if he finishes the second hit, if you always do your job punish, you'll always interrupt the second hit. I think that's a very clean answer to this move, given how little risk comes with it already. So that's what I'll do for that. And something similar for down 2, 3. Second hit is a counter hit launcher. This is also -10 for 91 damage. And it's also delayable. Probably should be -12. Next, QCB1. This is one of the most broken moves in the entire game. This is an advancing counter hit launcher that gives Brian an advantage. Now, for previously, we had his 3+4, which was a long range counter hit launcher, but we don't need that anymore. We have this. And are you really gonna duck Brian from back here when he has this move? Probably not. So this move being +5 and a counter hit launcher, way too much. It needs to be one or the other. If this is gonna stay a counter hit launcher, -2 or 0 seems to make a lot more sense. If this is going to stay +5, this is all that he should get. Right? He should get a soccer ball, and that's it. It should give him the same knockdown property as Hatchet Kick. That seems fair, given how much this helps Brian's neutral. He basically has an electric. Not sure he should have that. Next, we have 1+2. Just like I talked about in the past, if a homing move, the point is to lock down movement. Because this has follow-ups, Brian now is getting rewarded for being wrong about you sidestepping. So they're probably not going to delete the follow-ups, but they honestly should. Because here's the deal. This high is a high, so you want to duck this every time. And if you're really locked in, and if you practice this, you can actually tech roll this follow-up here. Because you can see here, I can do this into heat burst. And if you tech this to the right with very strong timing, the timing is as your character's butt touches the ground. Tech roll this to the right, you avoid the launch. So technically, there's no mix-up here. Except there is. Because really, really good Brian players will do this, and you will lose the game for tech rolling. Where they'll do this knockdown, and then they'll taunt Jet up for you, and you lost the entire game. Because you tried to do the right thing and duck this mix-up because you know that you can launch the high and you don't care about the mid. This is disgustingly broken, and this needs to not be in the game. This is just completely insane. At a lower level, it doesn't matter. In my games, I get taunted up there every single time and I just lose the game. So that's too much. I don't think there should be any follow-ups on this move. But more realistically, the easiest fix is this puts you on the ground sooner so that Brian can't get a heat burst here. So you don't have to guess between, is he going to heat burst to go for the pickup, or is he going to try to launch me? I think that's super fair. Also, I forgot to say this in the original recording, the second hit's a counter launcher. Last, let's talk about his install moves. We have the full crouch hatchet. This is +7. Why? I don't understand. But not only is it +7, this will probably make you laugh. Not only is it +7, this also does something really interesting if you try to low parry this. You can't low parry this. If you try to low parry this, this will reversal break. Yeah, I'm not sure that should do that. You should probably be able to low parry this. So that's obnoxious. But you know, it is what it is. Hopefully that ends up getting fixed. Probably should be +5 like a normal hatchet. You honestly shouldn't have it, but it probably should be a +5 like a normal hatchet, and you should probably be able to low parry it. Don't know why that move reversal breaks. Next, we have his back 1+2. So this is an armored move here that you see it does that knockdown, so you can get a Northern Cross here because it forces you into crouch. So that's cool. Full 40 damage, that's not bad. Except that Northern Cross isn't actually the right follow-up. This is. He gets his install back from an armored move. I don't think armored moves should give you anything. So the fact that this armor is giving him an install One, that's unacceptable, but two, it's guaranteed off of this ultra plus mid. Don't think that should be in the game. Claudio, there's basically nothing I would change about this character. I already talked about the guard break, but that's more of a systems thing. So I also don't think Claudio's guard break is very good because you should never be holding that guard break. You should always sidestep, but it is what it is. As long as it wouldn't kill you, obviously. But what is annoying is that sidestep 4 tracks really, really well. Against most of the cast, this is near impossible to sidestep. In my opinion, this probably shouldn't track left. Because that's Claudio's weak side. So if this just didn't track left, I think they could give it back its counter hit property, and Claudio's totally fine. Claudio is very strong and he's very easy, but he has pretty clear weaknesses. If you know the holes in his strings, he's honestly not all that bad. Alright, I know a lot of people hate Clive, so a lot of you are probably going to be really mad that I don't have more to say on this character. I genuinely think Clive is pretty close. If you've seen my Clive guide on just how to beat him, Clive is really, really good at space control, and his mix-up utility is not very strong, in my opinion. So, what's the deal here? Clive has two moves that, in my opinion, are way too good. And that is his down 1+2, which this move, the thing that's so good about it is that it does literally everything. This is a mid, this is a weapon, this is safe, this is homing, this is a steel pedal, meaning it hits grounded and it does a pancake flip. This is also a counter hit launcher, so that's really good. And this will launch airborne opponents. This does literally everything, especially because it also has really good range too, right? Hits from like range 3. This does like 11 things. It could probably lose 5 of those properties and still be a good move. Especially because he already has a steel pedal. So the fact that he also has a weapon steel pedal, right? Because if we knock him down, this is a steel pedal. And it's a counter hit launcher. And it's safe. We already have a steel pedal. Do we need a range 3 steel pedal that has every possible property that you could put on a move besides heat engage? It's too much. It's too much. It doesn't need to do all those things. At the very least, it shouldn't be homing, and maybe it shouldn't pancake flip either, but something has to go, in my opinion. This move should be completely linear given everything else that it does. The only other move that I would change is this string in heat. So this string is very annoying because this is a mix-up string, and Clive is putting so many particle effects on the screen that's really hard to tell what's going on. Technically, if Clive does this, you can hop kick him here and beat everything besides armor. You can hop kick him there and beat everything besides armor. And then you can finish the string, be -12. You can finish the string, be -12. I think this string should jail. I think until he commits to the last part of the string where he's -12, you should be locked into whatever your prior action was, meaning that if you block this, you can spam a hop kick, and if he goes into stance, he gets launched. And then if you see him finish the string, then it's on you to react to him finishing the string and stop spamming your hop kick and take your 12 frame punish. I think that's super valid given how much visual clutter is on the screen. So even me, someone who labs this character and someone who knows that you can interrupt this here, I can't reliably launch this, and I've practiced it, right? What I do is I try to crouch judge at him when he goes into stance, because trying to launch this is near impossible to do every single time. It's still really hard to do with crouch jab, but it's much easier. Up next, let's talk about Devil Jin. There are two moves that I think track way too much. First, we have Laser Scraper. If Devil Jin does this from basically not point blank range, this is homing. Right? So that is sidewalk right, and this is sidewalk left. The best sidestep in the game cannot sidestep this at point blank range. Seems really good, especially because this is like an infinity mix-up, right? Not only do we have this mid-mix, We also have a mid-high mix. We also have a timing mix. If you notice here, the first two hits, these actually jail. You see that Lili is going to crouch block after one hit. These completely jail. So technically, there's no mix-up here, right? You'll always duck this. The issue is this is also a timing mix. Should Devil Jin have both a timing mix and a string, a high mid mix on a homing button? Probably not. As I've said before, this defeats the purpose of something being homing, or it overloads what the string does. If you want this move to track his weak side, that's 100% fine. You make this track left. So if we're trying to size up electrics and hell sweeps, we can use laser scraper to call that out relatively safely. But this is way, way, way too much. One, this needs to not track as much to one side. And two, I don't know if it's interesting gameplay that Devil Jin has both a high mid mix and a timing mix. Seems excessive. Way, way, way too good. The other issue is that his flash punch is actually completely homing as well. So I'm going to have Lili set to sidewalk left. That's actually right. So I'll have her set to sidewalk right and then back to the left. And you'll see something really interesting here. Devil Jin will continuously turn to face Lili, and the last hit is completely home. You cannot step Devil Jin's flash punch under any circumstances. I'm not sure that should be in the game, because it does something really weird to the neutral, where Devil Jin's flash punch, the first two hits are already -1. Should we have a -1 move that comes from a jab string that is homing, meaning that if you see the Devil Jin do this, you have to stop moving. So this -1 effectively becomes plus on block, because if he finishes it for whatever reason, you will get knocked down. So you have to stop moving every time he does 1-1. So this becomes mentally plus on block. Seems really powerful. I think the tracking on these two strings needs to be nerfed at least to one side. And then besides that, I don't really have any problems with Devil Jin. He's always going to be the most toxic in Mishima, but I think that's fine. I think he's allowed to be the most toxic in Mishima. Alright, so Dragunov is really insanely powerful. With that being said, I actually think he's pretty healthy compared to most of the other top tiers. There's only two things I would nerf. I already talked about the G-Clef nerf, where his G-Clef should either not wall splat or it shouldn't heat engage. I think one of those two properties has to go, and then Dragunov is completely fine, at least on that note. The other thing that I would want nerfed, well, there's actually two. I forgot. There's a third move. The other thing I would want nerfed is, let's say the Dragunov wall splats you, and then he does this. I think that Pigeon Roll 2 should be a hard call out that you're going to tech roll. The fact that Pigeon Roll 2 hits grounded makes this really toxic, especially because it's safe. So I think the easiest solution to this is make it so it doesn't hit grounded. If Dragunov thinks you're going to tech roll, then this becomes, really cool Oki or whatever, where he does this, and then he does, this. And then, okay, I think you're going to tech roll, so I'm going to do this, and here's my mid. That's safe. That knocks down a wall and a wall splats. All of that is fine if you can lay on the ground and avoid Pigeon Roll 2. That hitting grounded seems like a lot. The other change, and not that many people know this, I just want you to look at Jin's health bar. This is 14 chip damage. That should be lower, right? Like, at least a little bit lower. Next, let's talk about Eddie. He has two moves that, in my opinion, are way too strong. And it's mostly like tracking / force mix-up situations. First, let's talk about his back one. Again, I have Lili on the screen because she has the best side step in the entire game. Fully tracks to the left. Fully tracks to the right. This is a 14 frame homing mid. That is safe. It's -7. Not only is it safe, there is technically a mix-up here on block. Because if you try to take your turn back, because it's -7, we have this, and we can go into stance here. Yeah, that's pretty good. So, again, homing mid that's a mix-up on block. Not only is a homing mid that's a mix-up on block, look at what it does on counter hit. That is a 61 damage counter hit coming from a homing 14 frame mid that is a mix-up on block. At the very least, this shouldn't track one of the sides. Maybe it shouldn't, if they want this to be his strong side tracking move, that's totally fine. If you have a read on back one, you can step it to, the left or whatever, because Eddie's weak side is for the right. The fact that this move is homing and does all that on counter hit and is safe and is a mix-up, way too good. That doesn't make any sense. That's way too much reward for a homing move. The next move, or the only other move in my opinion, is forward 3. This move is an advancing low. This is very, very hard to see if you're not really looking for it, and even if you are, it's still very, very difficult to step. This move, because it puts Eddie so close to you, you have to guess here. So, to illustrate, I will have Lili backdash. So, you see here how that wasn't clean hit. If I were to set Lili to block after the first hit, she'd be able to block and punish this here. And notice, this is also +6. Here, Eddie is too close, you have to block it. I think if you have to guess here, this move needs to be a little bit slower, like 23, 24 frames. I think at that point, we have a reactable low, like very reactable at 23, 24, but the risk would match the reward in my opinion. A forced 50-50 here, because you can't sidestep any option, it's way too good. So that's my opinion. There are also some animation changes where, like, this move here, this is a mid-mid, this looks like a mid-high, and it's especially annoying because you have this, which is a mid-high, right? And these look really similar. Turning this to a mid-high sounds like a lot, because you can sidewalk the second, or you can sidestep, not sidewalk. You can sidestep the second hit to the right, but that move is really, really annoying in terms of visual clarity because it looks like a mid-high. So a lot of people try to duck that and just get blown up for it. Fahkumram is really, really good. I'm not going to sit here and act like Fahkumram isn't really good. One of the issues I have with Fahkumram is more of a bug than anything else, and I'm going to illustrate the problem. So, in theory, you should be able to do a sidestep right duck against Fahkumram's 3-string if you don't think 3-1 is coming out, right? So you'd be able to sidestep this mid here, or sidewalk this mid, right? So you'd be able to sidewalk this, and you would be able to duck the high, right? So you do this. So in theory, you would be able to do this, and that would be awesome. The issue is that Fahkumram's 3-4-3 is bugged. If you are ducking, he will turn to face you. You can see here, I'm doing the exact same movement, except I'm ducking here, and you cannot sidestep right duck this, which is incredibly annoying, because you can sidestep right duck this, and you can sidestep right duck this. Right? So, the fact that this bug is in the game makes counterplay against this character incredibly frustrating. It means that instead of you being able to apply a really high level guess here, you just have to take a hard, 1 out of 5 guess every single time. And it's incredibly frustrating. A very elegant fix would just be to fix the bug with the 3-4-3 to make it so it doesn't track you if you're crouching. I think that's very, very simple. But yeah, in my opinion, that's the only really, really obnoxious thing about Fahkumram. The other thing too is that I don't like how his down 1 or his down 4 is basically homing. This low is really good. You can't really stop this to either direction. So this low is really messed up, and I don't like that this low is homing, but it does carry with it quite a lot of risk. So I'm more forgiving to something like that. But yeah, I think the 3-4-3 is the most broken thing about Fahkumram. Not being able to step that, or not being able to step duck that if you're not playing Lili or Alisa is very, very frustrating to deal with. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else here that's way too powerful. His punishment is really good. His backdash is really good. His sidestep is bad. And yeah, his mix-up utility is very strong. But once you know the matchup, I think Fahkumram does have to take very significant risks in order to open you up. If you know the matchup. If you don't, he's going to run you over. But, you know, that's a knowledge check character, right? I don't mind characters being able to knowledge check you. Up next, we'll talk about Feng. I already talked about the guard break situation, and obviously there's a move that I would want nerfed, so we won't really go over that again. There are 3 other moves that I would want to see nerfed. First, let's talk about the shoulder when Feng is in heat. This move tracks insanely well out in the open. So if I have Jin set to sidewalk, again, we record a sidewalk to the right and a sidewalk to the left. You will notice that this is completely homing out on the open. So that's one side, that's the other side. This is completely homing out in the open. Now, you can sidewalk this to the left on immediate timing. So if Feng does something like this, you can sidewalk this right on immediate timing, I believe. Okay, then never mind. I thought that you could sidewalk this right, but apparently that is not the case. Okay, so on +1, you can sidewalk this right. So, yeah. If Feng is exactly +1, you can sidewalk this right. If Feng is 0 or more plus than +1, this is homing to both sides. You can't step it in either direction. Seems good, especially given that it's a 13-frame move that does 1 trillion damage, right? Like, this is a lot of damage. That's a lot of damage for a heat dash. So I think that move should be looked at. We also have this move. So if we look at these frames, you see here, this is a 12-frame startup, -10 on block. Okay, seems rough. This fully tracks right. This fully tracks left. Even on 0, this fully tracks both sides. So we have a 12-frame homing mid. That's pretty good. It's only +2 on hit, so that is good, obviously. Not super plus. The reward is you get a little bit of frames to work with. Here's the issue. This is a mix-up on block. So you can't even take your punish if you block it because this high might come out. If Feng is in heat, we also have this mid here. So, okay, Feng's in heat, that's fine. You can actually sidestep this second hit of the heat move to the left, right? So you can do this, you get a huge launch, awesome. I don't believe you can sidewalk this. I think you have to specifically sidestep this. Yeah, you have to specifically sidestep this. So, okay, that's awesome. You have counterplay, except we don't. That high will hit you if you try to step left. So this is a hard 50-50. Every single time you get hit by the move, especially if it Feng's in heat, because it's basically a 3-way mix, right? Because he can just not finish it. So this move is incredibly toxic, and I'm super... This is way, way, way too good. In my opinion, the easiest fix for this is 1. I don't know how you would animate this, but this option here, this high, should get converted into the mid automatically if he is in heat. That way, you're never taking a guess. I think that makes the most sense, where it would basically be these 2 moves into the heat backflip. I think that is the easiest way to fix this, because again, homing moves should not be mix-ups on block. The reward is you stop them from moving. So that's how I would fix this move. The last thing that I would adjust with Feng is I personally would just delete back turn and shifting clouds. The point of back turn is dramatically enhanced offense or dramatically reduced defense. That's the whole purpose of back turn. Should we have a launching parry from back turn? Given what back turn is supposed to do? Probably not. Alright, let's talk about Heihachi, the final boss himself. Heihachi is another one of these characters that has the homing move that has a follow-up on block. So here we have back 3. By itself, this move actually isn't that bad. +2 on hit, -9 on block for a 14-frame high homing. If there were no follow-ups, that would actually be kind of punishing in my opinion. Like maybe that should only be like -6, -5 or something. -9 is pretty brutal, except it's not, because we have follow-ups here. So this is a homing move that gives a mix-up on block. No, only does it give a mix-up on block, the high is a counter hit launcher. And there's also a mid. Yeah, so this either shouldn't be homing the first hit or shouldn't have any follow-ups. Very clean solution there, but this is just over-dimensioned for a homing button. Additionally, I would like you guys to look at the tracking here. This is sidewalk right, and this is sidewalk left. So that is a fully homing secondary hit from his down forward 1-1. Again, I just disagree with string realignment. It defeats the purpose of sidewalking, where at any point I can just keep pressing more moves in my string and my character will keep turning to face you. Why should I even bother sidewalking if whenever you want you can just do a 5-hit string where your character is going to keep turning around? Obviously, this one's a 2-hit string, so I'm being a little bit hyperbolic, except when we get to Leroy, you'll see I'm not being hyperbolic. So, yeah, that is the issue with this. It just shouldn't realign. I just disagree with that. Next, let's talk about the Warrior's Instinct activation. This is very funny to me. For those of you who don't know, this wall splat. Probably shouldn't wall splat, right? Not only does this wall splat, but I'm going to set Lili to punish here, and she is going to low parry. So, because technically, Warrior's Instinct activation is a special low. So what happens if you have a hard read on Warrior's Instinct? This reversal brace. And wall splats. That's too much, right? Like, surely that's too much. So that is one thing that I would have changed as well. The last non-Warrior's Instinct move is the double hell sweep. So this is a normal hit launcher. So if I have her set to block all, you'll see that it's only -10, again, despite being a normal hit launcher. If I actually do follow-up right, this is a normal hit launcher. It's not a super damaging one, but it is a effectively safe, low normal hit launcher. Kunimitsu, which with extremely good execution, and then Lee and Jun are the only characters that can get a punish here. This is extremely toxic, and especially because you can hit confirm the wall standing 4. So, really, really good Heihachi players, they can Twitch confirm this. This becomes very, very toxic, because essentially, when Heihachi's in Warrior's Instinct, there's no risk here, right? He does a hell sweep, Twitch confirm the mid, does a hell sweep, rip my -10 well launcher. There's no risk. So, in my opinion, the second hell sweep should be -13. Next, let's talk about 2 issues I have with Warrior's Instinct. Obviously, Warrior's Instinct is disgustingly broken. Whatever, they're not gonna, like, delete Warrior's Instinct. So, let's talk about his punishment in Warrior's Instinct. This is his 12-frame punish when he's in Warrior's Instinct. Right? A 48 damage knockdown punish with flip over Oki is really, really good. That makes this the single best 12-frame punish in the entire game. Except, I lied. That's not his 12-frame punish. This is. That's a full launch. I disagree. He already has the second best 12-frame punish in the entire game with this. Should he also get the best 12-frame punish with this? Probably not. I think that if they want to have this in the game, then this is fine. This should do one of those. It should do this knockdown where he just gets 1 extra hit here. So, okay, you want to do this, then you get, you know, a 4-4-2 here. Right, for 44 or whatever, and maybe he can get a wall splat here under certain circumstances. Having this, especially because there's like videos online, people getting like 90 from this because they also get wall. This is unbelievable for a 12-frame punish. Shouldn't be in the game. The only other thing, obviously in general, I just think Warrior's Instinct should be gutted. But I want you to see how far away Lili is. So from range like 4.2, I can threaten a launch here. Especially if I do a like deep dash. So from back here, I can threaten a launch. Should you be able to threaten a launch from back there? You know, someone whiffs a move with long whiff recovery. Should you be able to teleport across the screen? We're like zooming out, by the way. That's how far away I am. Should I be able to teleport across the screen and launch you? Probably not. So Hwoarang, in my opinion, is actually pretty close. One thing I would change is the homing throw. He has a homing throw. Paul has a homing throw. They're both 2 throws, ironically. All homing throws need to go. I do not think that any character in the game should have any homing throws besides the generic ones. I don't mind King's back 1+2, but even that one is... the animation's pretty slow, so that one can probably be homing and it's fine. I think having a command homing throw is incredibly annoying. So that's step 1. Step 2. In older games, Hwoarang had a very defined strength. We had the Infinity mix-up, right? Where we go into one of the flamingos and then we keep pressing buttons and it's always our turn. And, you know, fair enough, that's dealing with Hwoarang. We also had the best whiff punisher in the game with Plasma Blade, his back 3. And we had a safe down forward 2, which is good for keep out. So all of that is good stuff. The one thing that Hwoarang didn't have is strong approach tools. Hwoarang's approach is very linear, right? So if I do something like this, you can cleanly get away from the wall running 3 both sides, and the wall running 4 you have to do like a step duck because this does track sidewalk right really hard. But this is a high, right? So Hwoarang would have to take a really big risk to try to track you, right? So it doesn't make any sense for this move to exist. This is a jumping, homing, advancing, plus on block, mid. This is too many properties. And this also wall splats, I believe. And this wall splats. Jumping, homing, wall splatting, mid. Plus on block. Heat engager. Heat dash, if he is at the wall, he gets a wall combo. I do not think that Hwoarang needs a move that does that. It does not make any sense in his kit. I would just make this move not homing. I think the rest of the properties are fine if it's not homing. If it is to remain homing, this needs to be like a little bit plus on hit. Maybe it can wall stun, so your opponent has to hold a mix-up, but all of the other properties have to go if this is going to be a homing move. If it's not going to be homing, I think keep the rest of the properties, that's fine. On a similar note, why does Hwoarang have an advancing homing low and goes into stance? That also high crushes, right? So this makes him really good against Mishimas because they play keep out with electrics. Hwoarang can pretty effortlessly approach Mishimas by like wave dashing into down 3+4. Probably, and then he gets to run a mix up, right? That probably shouldn't be the case. I think the easiest way to deal with this is you let him recover and crouch or something. This is -2 on hit. The point of this move should be like a round ending low that high crushes. The point of this shouldn't be an advancing homing low that starts your offense. So, in my opinion, this should A, not be homing, and B, not go into stance, and C, not be plus on hit. This type of move doesn't make any sense in Hwoarang's kit as it is now. Next, we have down back 4. If you block down back 4, Hwoarang is -1. This is a low, that is a mix-up on block. The easiest way to fix this is to make this -4. That way every character can go for a wall standing 4, and if you want to try to wait out the floppy kicks to get a bigger punish, then you can do that if you want to. Every character should get a wall standing 4 here. It is absurd that you have to guess after blocking this low correctly. Very annoying. The last move, this move is pretty scrubby, but it's actually not scrubby. It's actually really good. This move looks really corny. This low is plus on block. It's 0 if he goes into stance, but actually no, it's just straight up plus on block. This is a plus on block jumping low that you cannot low parry because the block stun from the mid is such that you're just not allowed to low parry, right? So you have to hold a mix up after applying the appropriate counterplay of stand blocking the first 2 hits and then ducking. You have to guess here. At the very least, you should be able to low parry this. The fact that you can't low parry this makes this just a super, super annoying button to, for Hwoarang to apply your pressure if you're not sidestepping. And I'm kind of over these unlow parryable lows, or especially this plus on block low. That is just way, way, way too much. I just totally disagree with the design of that last hit. Next, let's talk about Jack. Jack has 2 nerfs that I would want to see. First, muscle armor. I hate the design of this move, but let's not talk about that. What we need to talk about is, again, the purpose of armor. The purpose of armor is to call out your opponent pressing, and they're not playing frame tight enough to stop the armor. Fair enough. If Jack is wrong, you should be able to counter hit him with a low, because he made a mistake. You jabbed, and, like you went +5 and then you jabbed to interrupt the armor. So you're +5 and you do nothing. He does this. He messed up. The fact that he gets to do this into a second armor and the first one can't be counter hit by lows is really obnoxious to me. I do not think that Jack or King should be able to not get hit by lows here. I think it's really, really annoying. Or not get hit, but not get counter hit by lows. Ultra annoying that that's not the case. Second, when Jack has his install, if I can find the button for his install. When Jack has his install, this is a near unreactable guard break. In my opinion, this move should not consume his install. Instead, you should be able to charge it to get the guard break. You can charge it to 20 or to 30 frames maybe, and then that's how you get the guard break. I think that is fair. I don't like the idea of an unreactable guard break. That is ultra annoying to me. Next, we'll talk about Jin. Jin is supposed to be the preschool baby time Mishima, where he gets access to easier electrics and easier hell sweeps or whatever. Well, I guess it's just electrics. When he goes into manual Zen, right? So he can do this. And this electric is guaranteed, has no execution. So, cool. That is all good. That's what they want this character to be. That is fine. Here's the issue. This is homing. If you are sidewalking out in the open, Jin will dash towards you and fully realign. To both sides. This is completely homing. Not only is his electric completely homing, the hell sweep is also completely homing. So Jin, from back here, can threaten you with a homing electric, homing hell sweep. So you think, okay, obviously the answer to that is from back here, we just want to duck. So now we're ducking full screen against the Demon Paw character and against the character who can do this from full screen. Homing, wall splatting, safe mid. That's right. From back here, Jin can 50-50 you with an electric, a hell sweep, and a wall splatting safe mid. Yeah, that probably shouldn't be in the game. If we want this to stay in the game, sure, be my guest, this can stay in the game. I don't necessarily have a problem with this staying in the game. What I do have a problem with this is Jin shouldn't dash towards you if you are sidewalking. Jin should dash in a straight line, and it is what it is, right? That makes the most sense to me. Next, we have a mid-mid string here. So the point of a mid-mid string, in my opinion, I could be wrong, is to give your opponent an incentive to not duck the mid-high string. So here we have a mid-high string, and you don't want to get launched, so you mix them up with the mid-mid string. First, this should be punishable because this is the risk you're taking. You should be taking a risk to stop them from ducking this. That's just basic Tekken design 101. But okay, fair enough. This isn't punishable. should this be plus on block into a stance that has a homing armored high, which shouldn't be in the game, and a safe homing armored mid, or not armored, but a safe homing mid that wall splats. Should both of those buttons exist in that stance? Now, you can see here, he's only +2, right? So, okay, here's the big brain. Instead of, dealing with that mix-up, we'll actually just crouch jab here, right? Super, super easy. We'll just crouch jab. Here's the issue with that. Or if Jin doesn't want to take a risk. Yeah, so should that stance do all of those things off of a mid string that is just also, if he does nothing, the crouch jab just whiffs sometimes, right? I think this is a real punish. Yeah, that's a real punish. And what's it called? Lili also has a particularly long range crouch jab. He can just do this if you're showing him a crouch jab, right? Should that stance have all of those options? One, the 2 should not be homing. Doesn't make any sense for that move to be homing and wall splat and be armored. So one of those properties needs to go, in my opinion. Next, this being homing and wall splatting also doesn't make any sense. Both of those need to be adjusted. That way, the risk reward just makes a little bit more sense. Because we're going from oh, you didn't duck this, you are now being penalized with a mix-up because you didn't duck this. And not only that, you have to guess. There is no easy way out of that. You have to guess that mix-up every single time. That is incredibly annoying to deal with. The only other thing that I find a bit odd is that his Zen stance, this has full high crush. Why? Up next, let's talk about June. The first thing is the install is too much. I do not think that she needed an install. Her damage was already really, really good before she got the install, but now she's just doing like really egregious damage, in my opinion, where like if June has rage, this is the situation that you're looking at, where you'll make one mistake and then this happens. That is not a number that should exist. That's my opinion, but, it is what it is. Also, if you just heard a vibrating, that was my phone, that wasn't yours. So, that shouldn't exist. But, it is what it is. That is currently in the game. I don't think it should be. Also, you'll notice, before I did the tornado, I actually didn't spend any health. And that's like a common, oh, June's ass because she can heal. Or because her abilities cost health. No, they don't. He can heal most of the damage. So that doesn't matter. Second, I want you guys to look at the tracking of this move. If you are sidewalking, this move will realign. Given that this move is a high crushing, range 3.4, high crushing, range 3.4, safe mid-launcher projectile, so it can't be parried. Given that it does all of those things, should she also turn to face you during the startup? Probably not. I want you to look at this. This has the exact same property. If you are sidewalking, she will turn to face you during that move. Themes incorrect. I don't think that either of these moves should have any tracking. So those are moves along with getting rid of the install. This move not having any tracking wouldn't matter if she didn't have an install because it wouldn't have the extra range. But as it stands, the range and the tracking is way, way, way too much. We also have this move. If you are sidewalking, this move is home. This is her fourth forward wall 1+2. If you are sidewalking, she will always turn to face you during the startup of this move. There's nothing that you can do about it, which normally wouldn't be that bad, except it's +9 on block into stance. So that is pretty frustrating, especially if you try to punish this. So let's say you try to do something like a Rage Art. So let me select from punishment, and we will select Rage Art. As soon as I can find it. This happens. Yep. If she thinks you're going to Rage Art, you died. So maybe that move shouldn't be homing. The last thing is I don't think either of these should wall splat for like a combo unless June is very, very close to the wall. Like, if June is here, sure. If June is here, that slump should happen for both of these moves. There is no reason that this should be happening. That should not be in the game because she blocked a -10 low. That is unacceptable. Also, the can change I talked about in the intro, but that's a given. The last thing is this move here. This move is a plus on block homing mid that gives a mix-up on block. Homing mids are not supposed to be plus on block, and they certainly shouldn't give a mix-up on block. Kazuya is a character who's been flying under the radar for quite a while, but a lot of people are starting to wake up to how strong this character is. In terms of game plan, he has the easiest game plan in the entire game. He wants to knock you down and then casino. And that's what Kazuya does. It's not very hard to do that. It's actually the easiest thing to do that. Not only that, in prior games, Kazuya actually had to knock you down, right? Like, Kazuya, he had to do this so that he could do this. Now, he doesn't really have to do that because he has this button. This button makes it so that he has a advancing wall splatting mid that's plus on block, and this makes him so plus that it's kind of hard to get away from his pressure, right? You can still step quite a few things, but like this stature kick, you're not getting away from this. And then if Kazuya's at the wall, we can realign, obviously. You can sidewalk that. But yeah, you can see here that like the stature kick, not getting away from that. If he thinks you're going to press, he can 1+2. If he thinks you're going to like really press, he can down forward 2. We also have a homing heat engager. That probably shouldn't do that. So this button, in my opinion, totally changes how Kazuya plays, where instead of having to wait for you to mess up so he can knock you down at any point, okay, there's my knockdown. Seems excessive. I don't love the existence of this move. Its tracking is very poor for what it's worth, but +5 knockdown wall splat is just really, really good. It makes it so that when Kazuya is wrong, right, you didn't duck here, he gets to keep up his pressure. I'm not sure he should be able to do that, especially given that stature kick is basically homing. If you're not playing Lili or Alisa, this move is near impossible to sidestep. So I'm not sure that this move should do all the things it does when, you know, it's so easy for him to start his Vortex now. So that is very frustrating. Here's another thing that's incredibly frustrating. Down back 1-2, this is normally a -19. A very good Kazuya player will actually be able to hit confirm this. So if Kazuya's in heat, I put on a random block. If I see this hit, I do not heat dash. If I see a blocked, I do heat dash, right? So a good Kazuya player, they will do this, where, oh, it hit, I'm not going to do anything. The blocked, I'll heat dash, right? I'm not a Kazuya player, and I'm not used to hit confirming this, so I'm messing it up. But you can obviously see what I'm saying, right? Like, okay, no heat dash, no heat dash, right? This is, you know, if you play Kazuya, this is really, really easy to hit. So that move becomes incredibly toxic. Not only is that move incredibly toxic, I'm going to knock Jin down. So we're going to wall splat him. If I have him not block here. whatever, I mess with the wall combo. Jin says, I'm gonna lay in the ground because I don't want to hold a mix-up. That is super valid. Holding mix-ups is cringe. Except, you are holding a mix-up because of this. Kazuya is one of the only characters, he might be the only character, that can launch you from the ground. I don't think that second hit should either... If you're on the ground when the second hit connects, Kazuya should not be able to heat dash. I think that is a super easy fix for that move, given everything else that it does. Even on block, a lot of characters can't punish this. So, like, you can electric this if he does it from, like, tip range. Like, if he doesn't do it from back here, most characters, or most of the Mishimas can electric this. Fahkumram can launch that, Armor King can launch it. But most characters, they can't launch this from back here. So, that move is really crazy. I think that move is insanely broken. Next, we also have a wall splatting Hell Sweep. Kazuya's already the Vortex character, but not only is he a Vortex character, we have a low launcher, and we have a mid launcher, and we have a mid launcher. I don't think his Hell Sweep should wall splat. I think it should do the Clive 1-2 knockdown, where you just slip off the wall. And that just makes the most sense to me, but I think it is incredibly powerful that if your back is against the wall, every wrong guess is 70 damage. Seems really, really good. The last thing, and you Kazuya players, you're going to hate me for this. So I already know this video is going to get 1,000 dislikes from Kazuya players. This is a 13 frame launcher. Minus 12 seems a little safe for a 13 frame launcher. That's just me. Seems a little safe. Surely this could be minus 13 or minus 14. Alright, let's talk about King. So, King, just like with Armor King, I do not believe that it is fair for King to be able to wave dash into a 66% chance of throwing you. A good King will be able to wave dash into a Giant Swing, wave dash into a Shining Wizard, and wave dash into a 2-chain throw. Should King be able to wave dash into a hard 3-way mix-up every single time? Probably not. I think that these mix-ups should either be a 1-break if you think it's Giant Swing or Chain Throw, or it should be a 1+2 break if you think it's Shining Wizard. This just puts the ball way too much in King's court, especially, again, because these throws are homing when he is in heat. It's way too much in my opinion. Next, down forward 2. This is still the best counter hit launcher in the entire game. This move, if you guys do not know, tracks left, which this is King's strong side, obviously, so, you know, it is what it is. Given how powerful this move is as an elbow that counter hit launches, I'm just not sure it makes sense for this move to have any tracking and also be -6. This should be linear, in my opinion, and this should have no tracking to either side. I think that is totally valid. It could even make the combo a little bit more consistent, because I know on certain female characters it doesn't work, or it's very, very hard to make it work. They can make this more consistent for all I care. -9, no tracking to either side. I think this move makes sense. I do not think that it's fair that King can just, oh, you have to wait because I might delay it. So this effectively is a reset to neutral, right? So, oh, you have to wait because I might delay it. You have to wait because I might delay it. You have to wait, right? A 13 frame effectively neutral or even plus, depending on how much patience you have, counter hit launcher that tracks either side. It's too much. It can't have all of those things. -9, no tracking. I think this move is totally fine. Next, let's talk about the wall combo. This wall combo is just obnoxious. King does so many things super well. Should we also have this? Probably not. This just shouldn't transition to stance. If we want to have him, you know, have like a decently damaging wall combo, sure, that's totally fine. It shouldn't go into stance. Speaking of his stance, let's talk about a couple of things here. Muscle armor. If you see him do muscle armor and you use a low, this should counter hit. I think that's super fair. he was wrong about you pressing, he should get punished for that. The fact that he cannot get counter hit by lows doesn't make any sense. Next, when he is in heat, obviously the homing throws have to go. We have homing T-launch Twister, homing Giant Swing, homing Shining Wizard, right? Okay, hold on. Homing Shining Wizard, right? No, that needs to go, obviously. Especially because, again, it doesn't cost any heat. So, besides that, when he goes into Jaguar Step, this is armored. If they want to give him the full and enhanced right from the beginning, I think that's fair. This being armored is ridiculous. I just completely disagree with that. This should not be armored. So the big issue with bears, one, I think the spike combo needs to go. The bears already do 1 trillion damage. I'm not sure they should get this as like a spike combo. I don't even know what the input for it is. I just don't know if they should still have a spike combo in 2026. Seems like a lot, but I think the bears are generally okay. There's hunting bear stance is super overtuned. So many of you guys might not know this because not that many people know the bear matchup, and that's okay. First, wall riding 1+2. This is an advancing heat engager that goes into stance if they hold down. At this +3, you do not have a safe move to contest with. You have to guess, which, you know, it is what it is. The issue with this stance is the properties of the moves in this stance. So down forward 1, this is a homing mid. That's fine, okay? You're allowed to have a homing mid, right? 2, this is a homing low, not a single character can step that. It is launch, but it's homing. Seems excessive. This 1+2, this has pretty poor range. This is also homing. Now, again, it is launch punishable, but it's homing. This armor, if you're not playing Lili or Alisa, this is also homing. And it's a heat beauty. I think the easiest solution is 1, this move here should not be a heat engager. It should still be armored though. But you know, if you want to have an armor from stance, that's fine. The stance is already crazy evasive because they're in crouch, right? So it is what it is. This move should not be a heat engager, and it should not be homing. This move, I think that move is also homing. I'm not 100% sure. But this too, +21 on hit is crazy. If they want this to stay +21 on hit, that's fine. This move can't be homing. You have to be able to step this left. And then this launcher, again, this just should not be homing. I understand that bears cannot backdash and they cannot sidestep, and that is fine. I do not think it is fair for bears to say, well, neither can you, right? It doesn't make any sense in terms of game balance that because your opponent is playing a bear, they're making you play a 2D game. That seems really, really toxic. Where, again, every time a bear player does this, it's time to guess. You have no counterplay here. You are just guessing. And when I say counterplay, I mean, you know, here's an option that beats most things. Or if I do this, the bear player specifically has to call out X, or they get punished for it. Nope, there's none of that. When you're playing against bears, every single time you block this, it's time to guess. That is unreasonable. All right, let's talk about Kunimitsu. This is probably going to disappoint a lot of you guys, but I genuinely think she's pretty close. The issue with Kunimitsu is that a couple of her moves have one too many properties or is a little bit too plus. So, after down 1+2, you can still step the wall standing 1-2, or the wall standing 2-1 rather. That is great, which means you don't have to hold this 50-50. The issue is, after down 1, this is completely homing on the entire cast. That is exceptionally toxic, and I do not like that. Especially because I believe the down 1+2, this tracks right, but I do think you could step this left. Yeah, so you could step this left, which is nice, but again, this move makes this completely homing. Not only is this homing, this is hit confirmable. Should this move be a hit confirmable mid weapon, that wall splats and heat engages and heat dashes for guaranteed follow-up. That is too many properties. If they wanted this to be counter hit confirmable, I think that's totally fair. Or if this move lost its tracking, I think that would also be fair. One of those two things should be done to this move, in my opinion, and then while standing 2-1 is fine. I think while standing 2-1 is by far the most broken button in her entire kit. Really good Kunimitsu players can just fish with this all day. You can't do anything about it. Like, yeah, she's -9, but like, is she -9 if she might finish it, right? It's basically a full reset to new neutral, which is extremely toxic. Next, after you get a hit by full crouch down 1+2, not only is back turn 1+2 completely homing, it also frame traps, and it's also a weapon, and it's also only -2 on block. One of those things needs to change, because down 1+2 is just an insane button. I think the most elegant fix to this is to make full crouch down 1+2 +3 instead of +5. I don't think this should be more minus, because I'm not sure she should be getting twin pistons for like this low. 23 damage low, that gives a mix-up. That seems really crazy, especially when you look at Lars. His shoe shine is -12. I believe that Xiaoyu shoe shine is -12. Alisa's shoe shine is -12. If we're gonna say all the shoe shines are -12, that's completely fine. That's cool. This needs to be +3 instead of a +5. It means that you can safely crouch jab this, and better side sets will probably be able to get away from it. I think it's the most elegant fix. I know a lot of people want to see that be like 0 on hit and -14. That seems really crazy to me. I don't know if all that is necessary. Because again, if that is only for +3, then the problem with this move also gets fixed. So I think +5 is a simple and elegant solution to just her kit in general, and it makes it a lot less toxic. The final change is I could potentially see set 1+2. I could see that being nerfed. If you are sidewalking to the left, you can actually step this somewhat reliably from full screen. So in general, I like sidewalking left against Kunimitsu for that reason. This is much harder to step to the right, but I do think you can still step it right. It seems to track much better to the right. So yeah, even if the first hit whips, the second hit will still hit you. So maybe that can track a little bit less, but even that move tracking as much as it does, I don't mind it as much. So yeah, those are the only two moves that I would nerf on Kunimitsu. A lot of people think that like this button is also broken. This move has horrendous tracking. I've had this stepped on like +7 or whatever. This move has really bad tracking. Lars. So Lars has one really broken move, and we all know what it is, and it is dynamic entry. +5 homing mid heat engager goes into stance. Again, we've talked about this a million times. This does too many things. This should either A, not be homing, or B, not go into stance. And if it's going to stay homing, it needs to not go into stance, not heat engage. You can keep the +5, let that be +5 in neutral, rather than a mix-up where you have to hard guess every single time. This move rewards Lars for being wrong. That should not be in the game. Genuinely, that's basically the only issue I have with this character. The other thing, I suppose, is that the heat smash, if he misses this initial jump, he should not do the dive and then go into stance. He should just fall to the ground and get launched like an adult. Alright, listen, Law has had it too good for too long. This character has been arguably top 3 for the duration of this game. So, let's talk about the really obvious funny ones. I just want you to look at my frames. I'm playing Law, and do note Jin is blocking. Maybe that should be like +6 or something. Especially because this is the mid. Yeah. Maybe this should be like +6. Even +6 is kind of a lot, but listen, this is a high, so fair enough. Plus 16 on block is not correct. If you told me that was bugged, I would just believe you, because that is an insane number for any move to be. This being for plus 4 is really good. If you want this to stay plus 4, sure, whatever. Yeah, those moves are just unbelievable. Plus 16 is such a crazy number. We also have some tracking issues. So technically, Law's weak side is supposed to be his right. You know, so I'm not really seeing it. Again, this is a weak side, right? So this is his weak side. This is his weak side. So your jabs, these will whiff. Your down forward 1 whiffs. Your forward 1+2 whiffs. That's a really good pressure tool because it's counter hit launcher. You know, a lot of those whiff. So okay, weak side, right? If we go to the supposed strong side, the down back 3 whiffs. That's good. Side step 3 still connects. Down 4-3 connects if it's not point blank. At point blank, this will actually whiff sometimes. And also, this will still whiff, so that's good. The nunchucks whiff to this side. But depending on the negative frames or the plus frames, down 4-2 can actually still track this way. So it's hard to get like the exact frames here. But I think if Law is like sufficiently minus, he can get the down 4-2 to track this way. Yeah. If Law is a -1, this now tracks. Depending on how close he is to you in the distance. Right? That's really good. Surely the safe down forward 2 shouldn't track that well. Right? Surely the tracking should be a little bit worse, especially given how good the tracking is on the lows. My opinion, the lows track way too well, and because we have these mids that track the weak side, it makes really advanced counterplay like side step ducks, basically makes it obsolete, right? Because if you want to do a side step right duck, this is hitting you, this is hitting you. If you want to do a side step left duck, this is hitting you, right? He's down forward 1, and he has a good down forward 1. And he also has a good string game, right? So again, this is left. This string tracks left. A lot of Laws poke with this string. That's right. So, you know, it's very, very annoying dealing with this character because of how strong his tracking is. On top of him having homing buttons, right? He has good homing buttons. He has a homing high here. I don't remember the input for it. But we have a homing high here. I can't find the input for it, but it's +1 on block. And I think it wall splats? Yeah, so this homing high, this is a +1 on block, which again, he has a wall splatting G-clef and a heat engaging G-clef. That shouldn't be in the game. On normal hit, this homing high will completely wall splat. And Law has one of the best wall combos in the entire game. It's too much that his tracking is too good for how good his homing moves already are. And then, of course, we have another G-clef basically with his wall standing 4. That's guaranteed, right? So it basically turns the wall standing 4 into a G-clef. That was not possible prior to them giving his wall standing 4 a blue spark. Right? If you don't blue spark this isn't guaranteed. That was only possible with Season 3. That probably shouldn't be possible, in my opinion. He shouldn't have basically a G-clef from crouch. Doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, it's a lot of things that Law does that are way too good, and because there's no execution behind the DSS cancels, it just doesn't make any sense for him to have access to these frames and this kind of tracking. It's way, way too much. Lee is very, very simple. There are 2 changes that I would make. Let is make Jin block. 1+2. This should not be able to go into Hitman stance. Plus on block, homing, counter hit launcher. That's a stance mix of on block is too much. A barely minus counter hit launcher that is homing and is also a mid is still too good, but if it's not plus, and if it doesn't give a stance mix-up, I think this is allowed to be in the game as the sole exception. I do not mind this move, especially because, again, on normal hits, right, this is a totally fine normal hit property. So this being a counter hit launcher, actually, it's totally fine. So that should not be able to transition to Hitman. This should not be able to transition to Hitman. Most characters, if they block this and the lead goes into Hitman, that is a hard 50-50. You can't step most of the options there. So you just have to guess. This move already 4 breaks and it's a full launch. Could it also be a hard 50-50 on block? Probably not. But if they do those two things where he doesn't get those Hitman transitions, I think Lee is totally fine. All right, let's talk about Leo. So this character has a few moves, well, one move in my opinion, that is way too hard to punish, and that is Leo's 3-2 string. So this is a mid-high that does not jail. You can see here, the third hit comes out so fast that you need to be exceptionally quick to launch this, especially if you've never seen this string before. You are never launching this on reaction, right? Like this move comes out way too fast, right? If I like confirm, okay, it like the high is gone, then like it's too late, right? There is another mid option here, and even this one, okay, I'm confirming, and it's too late, right? I'm already launched. So the solution here, I think, is to slow down the last hit of both of these moves. You can see here, this last hit is 23 frames. This one is 22. I think these should both be like 25, 26. If you duck this second hit, you should be able to always get a launch, regardless of what character you're playing. Even if it takes you like a couple of frames to learn that, okay, like I get a launch here, I need to be really quick about it. The fact that no one has any matchup experience with this character, so they're not going to be able to launch that on reaction every single time, even some of the times. I've never seen that duck and launch on reaction, even in Leo mirrors. So, I mean, that should go to show you how bad people's anti-Leo Leo is. I think the third hits should be 26 frames so that you have ample time to recognize that the high whiffed and that you can actually launch the final hit. That is my opinion, but, you know, it is what it is. Next, we have this low from Bach. This is Bach for 3+4. This is completely homing. Leo did not need an option from this stance that was completely homing. Typically against this stance, you want to do like a step left duck, which the step left duck will cover this, of course. But this stance just didn't need a homing low that gives Leo advantage and also high crushes. The stance is already really evasive, so having a high crushing low that's like, what, this is only -12, I think? Oh, it is -13. But having a high crushing low that is -13 and also gives Leo advantage on hit from a stance that already high crushes, should this also be homing? Probably not, right? It's way too good. In my opinion, this should just be minus on hit. I don't think the move should exist, but it should be minus on hit. I think that's totally fair. Next, we have this evasive punch. So for those that don't know, Leo's evasive punch actually wall splats, and it's -9. Now, unlike the other evasive punch, this one is a high, but I don't think it being a high matters, right? Because it's not like you have a hard read on Jin's evasive punch, so you're gonna hold back and then take your 10 frame. Like, that's not really how these moves are used. Just the way that these moves are used is specifically to escape pressure. So whether or not it's a high or mid is kind of irrelevant. This should be -10. Maybe they can also turn it into a mid, that way Leo isn't getting like duck and launched if you have a hard read. But I'm gonna be honest, I don't know a single person that even knows this one's a high. So I think it's fair for that to, 1, become a mid, which would be a buff technically, but 2, become -10, which in 99.9% of purposes would be an overall nerf. Finally, we have the heat smash from stance. Typically, against this stance, you basically can never step this stance. If you're not playing Lili or Alisa, stepping the stance isn't real. But if you are going to step, you would go left. However, because of the heat smash, You have to evade this to the right. Regular characters can step this right. This is not a Lili only thing. But it's incredibly frustrating that 1, he can heat smash from stance, and 2, the heat smash from stance tracks the weak side of this stance. I just don't think he should be able to heat smash from stance, or if Leo is going to be able to heat smash from stance, it should be completely linear, or at the very least, go the same way as the rest of the stance. The fact that it tracks the weak side is just, it's completely unacceptable in my opinion. Next, let's talk about Leroy. This is a character who doesn't seem like they have that much that's like ultra broken, but in my opinion, there are 2 moves that are doing way too much. First, I just want you to look at the machine gun punches. Yeah. That's homing. Leroy will constantly turn to face you during your sidewalk, and the mid is completely homing. You cannot step it under any circumstances. Top of that, the highs is actually jail. You cannot duck these. So if I have Lili set to crouch block after 1 hit, she cannot duck. So not only is Leroy only -2, the last hit is homing, and it's an elbow, so you can't parry it, you can't sidestep it. All you can do is just wait here. And, you know, let's say to try to press, a lot of Leroy players will do this, where they'll do this, they'll stop, and then do back 1+2. So if you do anything 14 frames or slower, you die. That's a lot. I do not like the design of constant string alignment. This shouldn't be in the game. Just no realigning on this. I think the move is fine. Otherwise, it's already hit confirmable. Shouldn't be realigning. Next, this is one of the notorious lows that are a mix-up on block. This is only -8. Leroy can parry after. He will always parry after, and you have to throw him on reaction, which opens him up to doing like an orbital, and then you just die, right? Like, if you throw him too many times, a really smart Leroy is going to orbital here, and you're going to be looking like Boo Boo the Fool. So, my opinion, again, just like with Hwoarang's, this should be -11 in the stance, and if Leroy has a read that you're going to do a slow punish, he should be able to intercept with that slow punish. The fact that it's a mix-up on block is cringe. Alright, Lidia, I think she just needs a full rework. I think that her kit is non-functional in its current state. Not only has she been heavily nerfed, I think that she has so much counterplay that every time she does anything and you guess right, she's in the air, and she's very rarely getting like a colossal reward if you guess wrong. Especially because there's a lot of instances where you're like, you can't guess wrong. You just do the counterplay and you're good to go. However, there is one problem move, and in my opinion, it is Horse 3. This is a move that is a jumping wall spotting mid. It does not wall spot on its own, but it doesn't have to because it does this. So if we do this, right, that is a wall spotting mid. Not only is it a wall spotting mid, but if a Lidia player is like ultra locked in and they're really good, I have never seen a Lidia player do this, so you know, I wouldn't expect this to happen in a game. Then this can happen. Right, so she can get a full launch there. Again, I have never seen a Lidia player even try that, but it is possible. So I do think that this possibility should be kept in mind. But this is way too much reward for a homing button. Again, the purpose of a homing button is to call out movement. So if she is right and calls out your movement, then the reward is that she's plus. So in my opinion, I think that is a very elegant fix. If they want this to like wall crush and then she's plus 14 on wall crush, I think that's fine. This should be like plus 6 and then reset to neutral. Otherwise, she doesn't get a stance mix-up here. Which she already doesn't get a stance mix-up, but this should just be like plus 6. I think it's absurd that she gets a guaranteed heat engager or a guaranteed wall spot here. It's just way, way, way too much. I just completely disagree with that game design. Alright, let's talk about Lili. Despite being my main, I do believe she needs like 5 or 6 pretty meaningful nerfs. First, let's look at the Heat Smash. If I hold forward here, I am plus 14 into Dew Glide. One, that means that everything out of Dew Glide is homing, but Lili can sidestep out of Dew Glide for 1 frame, right? A good Lili player will be able to do that 1 frame sidestep. If she does it properly, that means that any button I use in the neutral is also homing because I'm plus 13, right? So, and just to show you, this is all homing as well. So if I do this, then sidestep cancel and go forward 4, you can't move. That's sidewalk left. This is sidewalk right. Right? You can't move at all. Not only that, what if you try to rage arm? You're dead. What if we try to armor? Maybe armoring will work. So let's find Leo's Power Crush. Let's try to armor. You're dead. You have to block here. Every single time, no matter what, you are forced to block. Because if you do anything besides block, you're risking getting counter hit launched. This is probably too good. Maybe if you have like a 5 frame armor from standing, then you'll be okay. But this is way too good. Way too good. On a similar note, I think that the back turn Heat Smash should be launched. All of the low Heat Smashes should be launched. But let me just set Leo to block all. So these should all be launched. Lili's is -8. But the issue, so if she turns around, it's -14. The issue is her back turn armor takes 5 frames to activate. So if you don't have a long range 13 frame mid, you can't punish this because of the pushback. My opinion, this should be -10 with no pushback. Every character should be able to get a launch if they have a 15 frame launcher. I think all of the low Heat Smashes should be -15 because they all hard wall break, including Lili's. Not only that, Lili's will actually give you a clean wall splat from very particular distances. So let me see if I can find this distance. It should be like right here. A little bit further away. Right, she gets a clean splat here for 68 damage. I do not think that this move should be -13, -14. This should be launch. It's the best low Heat Smash in the entire game because of everything else that it does. So those are the first 2 things that I want to see removed. The next thing is her back turn 1+2. As it stands, her back turn has a lot of very strong lows, right? This low, it doesn't do that much damage, but it has good range, +1 on hit, only -11. This low has much more damage, +5 on hit, which is insane, and has a counter hit, right? That's guaranteed on counter hit. We have a Hell Sweep from back turn. This guarantees quite a lot, so there's 45 damage. We can also do this. That is 48 damage. Again, with very particular distances, we can actually get a clean wall splat here. So I think from like here. Yeah, we get a wall splat here. So we can also do this. So I think if I'm like right here. Yeah, there are very particular distances where this will also give a wall splat. So her back turn lows are really insane. So you really want to duck those lows, like really bad. The fact that this mid is -11 feels criminal given how good the lows are. This should be -13. This is a launcher, and like this isn't even a bad damage launcher too, right? Like this is a good launcher. $76 for a -11 launcher is insane. Even this for -13, that's still on average like that's a little bit better than the average launch for a -13 launcher, especially since it's 13 frames fast, right? So that should probably be a little bit more unsafe in my opinion. No, a lot of Lili mains are gonna like that, but it is what it is. Miary Zo, her down forward 2 tracks her weak side. I'm over safe down 4-2s, tracking the weak side. I don't like this design. This design is really toxic. It means you have to do a lot of step blocks, and just the way this character is designed, if you're doing step blocks, well, you're not stepping any of these lows now, right? So you can't commit to a sidewalk, because this will tag you, and if you step block, now all the lows are getting, right? That game design is really, really toxic. This is something that Shaheen has. We'll talk about it more with Shaheen, where his tracking is such that step blocks don't work against him, and step ducks don't work against him. You have to either sidewalk or just fight. Super, super annoying. Miary Zo has the same issue because she has a safe down 4-2 that tracks her weak side. The range isn't amazing, but tracks her weak side, doesn't have to be amazing. The other issue is that sidestep 2, this is an over-dimension move. We have a counter hit launcher. So, counter hit launcher that is plus on block and gives a stance mix-up. Not only does it give a stance mix-up, on +4, this is a hard 50-50. If you sidewalk left duck, then you will get tagged by this 2 option, which will wall spot you and is also a counter hit launcher. So you can't really press on this stance. If you sidestep right duck, then we have a 13 frame move that frame traps that will heat engage on you. We have to duck because this low is homing, but that's how it goes. Not a single character can do a step duck and evade the whole stance. Not only that, I already showed you that there's a frame for trapping mid, and there's a low to call armor. But let's say you're going to be a hero and you're going to crouch jab this stance. Well, we have an armored move here, so you can't crouch jab this either. Also, again, if you try to crouch jab, here's a jumping move to blow you up for crouch jabbing. Right? Here's a move. This move is mostly combo filler, but still blows you up. We can also grab from this stance. Right? We can do this. I think we can generic grab from this stance. Yeah, we can generic throw from this stance. And Miary Zo's throws are also bugged right now. Generic throws you should be able to break in 20 frames. Hers you have to break in 17. This is something that I watched with a friend online, and he was doing his throw break on the 18th frame and it wasn't breaking. Her throws have a 17 frame break window, so that should probably just be fixed. But yeah, this mix-up coming after a counter hit launcher that is plus on block is too much. This probably shouldn't go into stance. I think if this move didn't go into stance, this move is still great. This is a +1 on block and mid counter hit launcher. That's really, really good. But the situation here and the situation here, I don't mind it from the while running move. Tekken 8 has decided while running moves are allowed to give stance mix-ups, so that's a-okay with me. If we're gonna do this in the stance, that's fine. This in the stance, even though it's a counter hit launcher, way too much. The big thing with Nina is her wall standing 1+2. This wall splatting is really good, especially when she is in heat. This wall splats for 1 trillion damage. Like 45 damage is really, really good. I don't know if that's a wall splat. This also will blow up like the explodable walls, which is really, really annoying. I'm actually going to switch stages here. I'm going to show you one of the most toxic things in the entire game. Right, like, maybe that shouldn't happen. So the main reason, for those who don't know, Tekken 8 has like a system where if you hit someone back turned too many times, you can see here it like starts to like push them away, like it pushes them away really, really far. That system is to prevent infinite combos, basically, where if your opponent is back turned, you can't just, you know, assuming you have the range for it, you can't just keep hitting them in the back and they can't ever turn around because they never have the frames to do so, right? So my opinion, the best fix for this is to special case Nina's guns, where for the purposes of the back turn combo, it's considered one hit. I can't really think of any way that could backfire. I think this would only ever be a nerf, but I think that's the best solution to this. Without having that special case, it's just, again, from here, I don't know if that should be possible. All right, let's talk about Paul. Paul's while standing 1-2 is a broken string. This string is just insane. Safe mid, that is, it's not even safe, it's plus on block. Plus on block, mid, that gives a stance mix up on block. We've talked about this type of move a million times already. This is toxic, especially because this is a real mix-up. So, sure, you can do like a side step right duck, and with very strong timing, you can do a side step right low parry, you can catch this entire thing. Except, you can't, because this mid will sometimes tag you, and if that mid doesn't tag you, then the launcher will, right? So if we change this to one hit, if you do it after one hit, it's actually quite a bit easier, but you see now, the high is going to hit you. If you're not playing Lili or Alisa, this is, you're getting hit by something here, which is really, really annoying. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, we're getting hit by something, but this isn't a frame-tight exchange, right? If I crouch jab, that just beats everything if fall presses on immediate timing. That is true. Fall presses on immediate timing, crouch jab will beat everything. There's not a single thing that fall can do on this, right? That will win. It'll beat that. It'll beat that. It'll beat that. Right? This is good. Right? This is awesome. Except, it's not. If Paul delays his deep dash because he thinks you're going to try to contest him here, then you die. So, yeah, that's pretty... That's not good. That's really, really bad, actually. So, again, this is a hard 50-50 after his down forward 1 is a plus on block mid, but his while standing 1-2 is also a plus on block mid. So we have a mid string that is giving a like real mix up on block. That is incredibly toxic in my opinion. We also have this low. This is QCV3. This low is another one of these lows that is a mix up on block. You block this low, you have to guess here, right? So he does this mid. This will interrupt any punish that you do. And then you have either a high that you can duck or a mid that wall splats and it's like -12 or something. Unacceptable. If you block this, you should always be able to get a wall standing 4 in between these two hits, in my opinion. I think that is the most elegant fix to that situation. Next, we have the up back 1 charge. The way this wall splats is really toxic because even if he side splats you, it's still a clean splat. So if I have him like sidewalk right here, depending on how close Paul is to him, this will do a clean splat. Let me actually have him sidewalk left. On this map, it's like annoying. That's a clean wall splat. Like Paul gets a full combo here. Right? He can do a sidewalk to realign. He gets a full combo here. If it's going to fling this guy sideways, I don't think he should get a clean splat. This is like incredibly toxic at the wall because you can't get away from him. And if he does, because like what Paul will do in heat is they'll do this, where they'll do this into this because it does 1 trillion damage, right? So if I don't mess up, right, that they'll do that. That is ultra toxic. It should just be a side splat. Again, this is a plus on block homing mid. And I think with the heat version actually sends them further away. Yeah, this will wall splat. If you have a good enough angle, I think this will detonate the wall here. I don't actually know how to get it to do that though. But yeah, this will detonate the wall. I don't think that seems like a lot. I don't love that. And the last thing, deep dash, this realigns. This is a lot like Jin with his Zen electrics. This will realign. If Paul wants to call out your movement, he shouldn't be able to threaten you with a homing hatchet kick and a homing mid mix-up string from range 4. Especially because this stance already has a homing launcher. Yeah, I just completely disagree with this move. Yeah, I think deep dash needs to dash in a straight line. Just like I think Jin's Zen in the crouch dash also needs to go in a straight line. Alright, let's talk about Raven. So Raven has one of these over-dimensioned homing moves with his while standing 3+4. This is a homing, wall splatting heat engager. We've been through this song and dance before, so I'm not gonna, rehash this. Because it's -12, I actually think it's totally fine for this to be a either homing mid that wall splats or a heat engager that wall splats. Again, because it's -12, I do not think that it can be both. It's just too much for a homing button. On a similar note, Raven's down forward 1 is also homing against the entire cast except exactly Lili. Lili can step this to the left sometimes. Also, this has like a weird hitbox where if Raven's too close to you, then it can miss. But as long as Raven is not like in the side of you, this is completely homing to the left and completely homing to the right. Lili is the only character that can somewhat regularly step this on +1. If Raven is any more plus than that, then not even she can step it. So this is a 12 frame move that is, or it's a 14 frame move, sorry. That's +8 on hit, -2 on block, and has a follow-up that will wall splat. This is a lot for a homing mid. It's not supposed to be homing, it's just that's the way the hitbox is. So I think just this shouldn't track left, and then the rest of the move is completely fine. The fact that this tracks both sides very well is extremely toxic for just locking down movement for no risk, because again, this is -2. There's 0 risk that Raven ever has to take with that button. For the last thing about Raven, I forgot to record this in the first section, but I do, again, we have a safe low here that is a mix-up on block. This should be -11. That way, if you try to get a small punish, like a while standing 4, it is guaranteed. If you try to get a big punish, then he can parry out of it. I think that is totally reasonable. I do not think there should be a single low in this game that is a mix-up on block. If we just wanted to say, hey, this is -10, you don't get a big punish, that's fine, but we need to agree that that's what this is supposed to be. This should not be a mix-up on block. Reina has 2 moves that I believe need to be nerfed, and one that should probably be buffed. I don't know why it is in the current state that it's in. First, we have the armor from Sentai. In my opinion, it doesn't make any sense that this tracks the weak side of this stance. There's already a mid that tracks the weak side of this stance that comes with, whatever risk it comes with. So the fact that we have a button that, again, armor is supposed to call out pressing out of line, the fact that this also incidentally tracks the weak side of this stance, and this is hit confirmable, and this wall splats, right? So you can hit confirm this if you're not bad. Yeah, so you can hit confirm that, and it wall splats means it's never actually -16. It's a -14 at the very least. But also it tracks the weak side of the stance, which makes something like a step duck not viable if you're not playing Lili or Alisa. I just don't think this move should track the weak side of the stance. Doesn't make any sense for it to do so. We also have for CD3, this is a lot like many of the other moves that we've talked about, where if you're sidewalking out in the open, then this move will realign with you, meaning that this is near impossible to step under normal circumstances. I do not think that a move that does all of the things that it does should also hard track both sides. This is a steel pedal, so if they're laying on the ground, this will flip them over. This is a counter hit launcher. This is basically homing. This is safe. And this wall splat. Not only does it wall splat, Reina also gets the high splat here. So that's a really insane button. I think this tracking left also probably doesn't need to do that, right? This just shouldn't track left. Left is the weak side of the Mishimas historically, so the fact that this is homing and does everything that it does, it's too good. As for buffs, Reina's probably one of the only characters in this game that, or on this list, that I think should get buffs. It doesn't make any sense that full crouch down forward doesn't high crush anymore. The animation, she is clearly laying on the ground. And the same thing with this, all of these like donkey kicks. I don't understand why this doesn't high crush anymore. This was a really inelegant fix for, you know, this being a turn stealing move. So if you want to make this more risky, then just make it -15 and say, listen, if you're going to try to turn steal with it, you're going to get launched if you're wrong. I think it's totally fine. This should high crush. This is insane that this doesn't high crush. So Shaheen is really, really close. Shaheen has one button that is too good. The issue is that this button is way too good. And that is Shaheen's guard break. So I'm going to put Shaheen into heat, and then I will show you the issue with this move. Typically, the way that this move works is Shaheen has to crouch, and then he does up 1+2 after holding down for a certain amount of time. So you see here, it's like not guard breaking. I'm holding down for a really long time. Like, you have to hold down for a really long time to just do this from the neutral. So, okay, this doesn't seem that bad, right? The issue is you can buffer that down hold out of other moves. So let's look at his while standing one. This is a 14 frame mid. Shaheen never enters crouch here. He completely buffers this move from the block stun of this other move. He never enters crouch. For a 17 frame guard break, which is completely unreactable, by the way, due to the merit of it being 17 frames, it doesn't make any sense that he can buffer this out of his other moves, right? I don't play Shaheen, so I don't know the exact timing, but this is pretty insane, right? That, hey, like, this is a lot like Yoshi's sword sweep, where Yoshi needs to sit in crouch for a little bit before he's allowed to sword sweep. Yoshi would be disgustingly broken if Yoshi was allowed to buffer the like full crouch part of sword sweep out of the block stun of other moves, right? Look at his sidestep too. We can buffer out of this, right? You never see him enter crouch. You can buffer out of sidestep of 1+2. I think you have to buffer it a little bit longer. But again, he never enters crouch here. This is broken. I think that, one, you shouldn't be able to buffer it out of the blocks on other moves, and two, Shaheen should have to visually enter crouch, even if it's for only 5 or 10 frames. He should have to visually enter crouch before he's allowed to use this move, given that it is a guard break. And I think it wall splats, but it might not. I don't know Shaheen's punishment. But he does actually get to burn your gray. Yeah, I don't think this one wall splats and just knocks down. Yeah, so he doesn't get a wall splat, but he does get this. So if he does this, a good Shaheen player is going to be able to buffer this. This burns gray. Right? So if Shaheen is chipping you out, this gets really, really toxic very, very quickly. So Steve is not a character that I would say needs to be nerfed necessarily. I think a rework makes more sense, where, you know, we give down forward 2, make this move a homing again. We just remove the Lionheart garbage, or at least the forced Lionheart transitions, and then be done with it. But that's obviously not going to happen. They want Steve to be the Lionheart guy, so that's fine. If that's the case, one, these homing moves into Lionheart should either A, not go into Lionheart, because again, that is an over-dimensioned homing button, because this move effectively becomes a heat engager, because we have a heat engager out of the stance, right? So if this hits, then we get a 31 damage heat engaging wall splat. So that's a really good homing button, especially when you consider the fact that this one's +5 on block, and we also have a frame trapping homing mid heat engaging wall splat that comes out of that, right? So this shouldn't go into Lionheart, but if it does, then it's not allowed to be homing. Also, since we're talking about Lionheart, if we're in Lionheart, Lionheart 1 being a homing wall spotting safe mid heat engager doesn't make any sense. So in my opinion, the mid should either A, not be homing, or B, not heat engage in a wall splat. The reward is that you correctly called out your opponent moving. Right? I've said this a million times, but that's just the deal with Steve. I don't think that this move or this or this. I don't think that either of these should go into Lionheart at all. It just doesn't make any sense. All right, a lot of you guys aren't gonna like this, but I actually think that Victor is pretty close. So the issue with Victor is not that he has a billion moves that are way too good, or that are slightly too good, because that's kind of the deal with a character like Brian or like Law or Armor King, where these characters have like 15 moves that are all like medium too good. Victor has 2 moves that are too good. The issue is these moves are broken. So the first one is while running 1+2. This character already had a really good approach tool, right? So while running 2, for those that don't know, this is a counter hit launcher, right? So like this is a really good approach tool, especially because it gives +5 on block in the EI stance, right? That's a really good approach tool. It can be sidestepped to the left by Lili and Alisa, and most characters can semi-reliably sidestep it right, at least with good timing. That is invalidated, like the weakness of that move is invalidated by this. We have an advancing while running low that has the same startup and a similar animation, because we have blue sparks on hit. So, same animation, same speed, except this is a homing low. You cannot sidestep this. That is intensely frustrating to deal with and makes Victor's approach one of the best in the game, because whenever he wants, okay, it's time to guess. From literally full screen, it's time to guess, right? That is exceptionally toxic. Again, unless you're playing Lili or Alisa, who can do like a step left duck with strong timing to call out both options, you just have to guess full screen and you can't do anything about it. So that is incredibly annoying. I think that low just needs to be a different button. It needs to either not go into stance, it needs to not be plus. Ideally it would get deleted, but they're not in the habit of deleting moves. But yeah, it just needs to be a different button. So that's my take on that move. The other broken move is up back 2. This move needs to be like 7 or 8 frames slower. First, this move hard tracks Victor's weak side. So Victor's weak side is his right. This move hard tracks right. Not only does it hard track right, it also has a guaranteed follow-up. So if I do this, that is guaranteed. Nothing that you can do about it. So this is a 44 damage plus on block mid. Also, in case you weren't aware, this is a counter hit launcher, right? This charge is also so fast that 1, regular characters cannot step this on reaction, and 2, even if you're playing Lili or Alisa, you need exceptionally strong timing to step this on reaction. Like, you honestly can't, because basically you have to see movement, assume it's this move, and then step to Victor's strong side. And if you do all of that, you'll be able to step it on reaction sometimes. The charge is not long enough to be able to meaningfully counterplay this move, and that is the issue. This move needs to be like a 36 frame charge, and also, why does it track his weak side? Right? It doesn't make any sense for this move to do all of these things. So again, most elegant solution, have this track the other way. So this tracks his strong side like most of his other moves do. He already has a godlike homing button, right? It's like, I think it's back 1+2 or something, or maybe it's back 1+2. I don't remember. It's a really long range. Here we go. Up forward 1+2. Look at how far away this hits from. Okay, so this move already exists, right? We have an infinity range homing mid. We don't need this to track our weak side. We don't need that. So this move can track strong side, and this move should be at fully charged, like 7 frames slower. And then I think this move is fine. It's probably unusable in that state, at least in the high levels of gameplay, but this move is obnoxious. I think if these 2 moves are effectively unusable, I think Victor's actually a decently interesting character. So, that's just me. A lot of you are probably going to disagree, but that's where I'm at on Victor. Next, let's talk about Xiaoyu. I've talked about this character a ton on this channel already, so I'm not going to get like super into it. The biggest thing is the while standing 4 This being both a like anti-wake up option setup, where if you guess wrong, then you get relaunched, and if you guess right, you have to hold a +6 mix up in the back turn. I think that's insanely broken. It's the best like wake up situation that any character can generate in the game, and she gets it from a while standing 4. That's really good. The Heat Smash. So if you notice, Jin is not blocking here. The back turn Heat Smash gives a mix up on hit. Yep, so that should not be in the game. And the last thing is the safe lows. So we have 2 here. We have down back 2. So if I have Alisa to block all, and we have back 2 here. This is -7. So these are both safe because her back turn parry takes 1 frame to activate. I think the most elegant solution here is to make it so that the parry takes 4 frames to activate, and then all of the safe moves that go into back turn become -8. So this will be punishable with the while standing 4, but if you go for the wrong punish, then Xiaoyu can parry you. This will be punishable by while standing 4. If you go for the wrong punish, Xiaoyu will be able to parry you. And this can probably also be -8 with a 4-frame parry window. This might have to stay -11. I haven't really thought about Cali Roll too much. And -11, double Cali Roll can be hop kicked. But if this were -8, then Xiaoyu can just turn around and block. And this move probably should be launched given how evasive this is, right? So that might just be the launch no matter what, which it probably should be. So I don't really mind that. But yeah, I think those are the changes I would make to this character. Up next, let's talk about Yoshi. Despite everything with this character, I do think that Yoshi is actually relatively close to being balanced. His damage is still a little bit too high, but you know, it is what it is. I think the thing that holds Yoshi's kit together and makes his Oki as broken as it is forward 1+2. Especially with the no sword stance, so if he doesn't have a sword, or if he is in heat, then he gets this version of it always. This is a safe weapon, advancing, steel pedal, heat engager, heat dash launcher. I think I said it's homing already. This move should not have all of these problems, right? So if it's grounded, and if we turn this off, if he is in heat, this launches. It just shouldn't do that, right? It shouldn't do all of the things that it does. This should either not hit grounded. I think that's the best nerf for this. So this should either not hit grounded, or it should not be homing. Personally, I think the most powerful application of this is at the wall, where Yoshi can wall splat you, and then flip you over, and then we can just keep doing, like, we can just keep using the steel pedal, right? We can just do this, and we can do this, and we can just keep doing this until you get up. I think that is the most broken application of this move, and removing that, I think it makes Yoshi's wall Oki that much more bearable, right? Because the obnoxious thing is when you're at the wall and Yoshi does this, and then, okay, I'll just crouch cancel the forward 1/1+2 because I see that you are laying on the ground. That is insanely toxic. Yoshi should have to do anything else, right? We have moves that hit grounded. This hits grounded and flips you over already, right? Do we need a homing mid weapon, heat dash launcher, heat engager, safe to also do that? Probably not. Finally, let's talk about Zafina. Zafina is also pretty close, but her frames, there's just a lot of things that are not correct about her frames. There are 3 moves in particular that the way they interact with each other is too good. So first, we will talk about Tarantula down forward 1. This is +6 on block. Now, only the +6 on block does more chip to you than it does to Zafina. On this +6, if she does a forward 3 fast enough, this cannot be stepped if you're playing a regular character. So, to both sides, this cannot be stepped, right? This is exceptionally toxic because on this +4, we also have an issue where a lot of these moves can't be stepped. You can still do like a step duck, but a lot of stuff is hitting you on +4, right? So, okay, now on the +4, we have this mid that tracks to both sides. This mid, this is Scarecrow 1/1 +2. This is +6 on block, and again, it tracks to both sides. And then from Snow Right, it loops this situation all over again. We also have Mantis down forward 1, +10 on block. Heat Engager, again, it does more damage to you than it does to Zafina. You have to guess, right? The frames on these moves are way too good. I think that this should be +4. It's already a plus on blocking Heat Engager, but this should be +4. That way you can reliably step this to the right. I think that is super fair. If you're playing Lili or Alisa, you can do like a step left duck and still get away from it. All of that is super fair. Then this mid, this has incredible tracking, so that this can also be fixed by this mid just not having that great tracking, right? This move tracks a lot, so either that move's tracking needs to be dramatically reduced, meaning that even on +10 you can still step it, or again, what I would consider a more elegant fix is that this becomes +4 so that you don't have to hold this. And then when we are in Mantis, this also becomes +4. Because again, these are insane frames to have on a Heat Engager that gives you a stance mix up on block. So both of these should be +4, and then the Scarecrow 1/1 +2 can remain as it is. Or the Scarecrow 1 +2 needs to be like completely linear. Even on +10, you can still step it to either direction. I think that is the best way to fix this situation with this character. The frames are just way too good. Alright, and that is going to wrap up this video. This was a lot of fun to make. I did all of these discussions on stream, so if you don't tune into the streams, that is what you're missing out on. We do a lot of just discussion in general. I really like talking about game balance. I like talking about game design. All that stuff is very interesting to me. So yeah, that will be it for this one. This is supposed to be for fun, so trying to take it too seriously, right? Like, Bandai isn't going to get this list of changes and then implement all of these. You know, this is just a thought experiment for me that I had fun making. So, trying to take it too seriously, try to have fun with it. And yeah, thanks guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.